are now looking at a 2024 Ford Territory Titanium in Panther Black, and we'd like to deal with a few misconceptions about this vehicle. First up, most observers erroneously refer to it as an Everest, present company included, which of course it isn't. The proper Everest, at least in our Southern African market, is a spin-off from the locally made Ranger pickup range. Secondly, there's a bit of confusion regarding the Chinese roots of this vehicle, as quite a few people allege that it was a rebadged Fengdong from the People's Republic, or that it shares a platform with the latest JACOO Pro Max H9 Tico T97 Pro Max Pro. Of course, none of that is true. The original Ford Territory of Australian fame could easily be seen as a direct relative to the Everest, but this softly named CX743MCA version is a completely new product built by Ford's Chinese partner, JMC Ford, since 2022 for various smaller markets, including our own. Another pleasant fact is that this vehicle shares no DNA with established Chinese vehicles, which, to be fair, have actually come a long way in terms of design and technology. Still, the only close relative is apparently the Ford Equator, which is a slightly larger JMC Ford product made for equally obscure markets. Back to the Territory, which is available in our Southern African market with a 1.8-litre motor that kicks out up to 138 kilowatts or 380 newton meters. We also get the choice of 3 trim levels, Ambiente, Trend or Titanium, whose escalating specifications include most modern safety and convenience items. Someone alleged that Ford doesn't offer very good value, but the top-tier stuff in this Titanium version includes a full glass roof, leather trim, power front seats, bigger screens and more speakers, ambient lighting, surround park sensors, auto headlights, adaptive cruise control and collision mitigation. Do yourself a favor and visit the nearest Ford dealer to discover what the mid- and entry-level units have on offer, because if you and your messy family prefer vinyl or cloth seats, the cost savings and random gadget omissions may work in your wallet's favor. Ambiente starts at $593,500, Trend is $650,500, while this Titanium model will set you back exactly $725,500. Ford South Africa also recently introduced a dark edition based on this Titanium, which ponders to the horribly depressing trend of turning anything shiny, like these gorgeous 19-inch alloys, completely invisible, or into something you'd find on a base model or a drug dealer's driveway. Yours for 733,000 Rand. Luckily, this jet black 1.8T Titanium had enough bright work to accent its stylish and modern silhouette. Plus, silver wheels give a car a much-needed stance or footing because they frame the wheels inside their respective arches while the vehicle is in motion. Ditto for its matte silver flank and bumper inserts. Inside, we were delighted to find a noticeable blue hue to the obligatory black leather so favored by local buyers. In my opinion, it was blue enough to appease color crazies like me, yet dark enough as not to frighten off our conservative friends. You get 7 exterior paint choices, but I'm unsure if there are any other interior choices available. A couple of interior notes I could share with you include the chunky but very welcome volume control on the central tunnel, although it sometimes took ages to respond or would only change the audio volume in very small increments. Other infotainment controls are fairly intuitive, and sound system quality was most acceptable. Although new owners should quickly get used to it, it took me a few attempts to master the right-hand side steering wheel controls. Ford gave them a split personality between audio and gauge cluster info, with one master switch to toggle between them. Something which seriously messed with my life was the Territory's auto locking system, which locks all doors even when you're walking around the car to get your kid out of the other side. I'm sure it's selectable, or a dealership can nuke it for you, but as a nasty side effect, in the few days after returning this Ford, I would walk away from other cars, thinking they'd lock themselves. Anyway, another small irritation was a fairly persistent tire pressure warning system, which, by the end of our term with this press car, became a constant companion. Perhaps it just needed a quick reset at a Ford workshop, because it often alleged that the front right tire was 0.1 bar less than all the others. Or, in one instance, it warned that it was exactly the same pressure as all the others. In keeping with other modern trends, Ford also made sure to invent a completely new concept for this SUV's gear selector. I'm fairly convinced that it's now a full-on competition between manufacturers to see who can stray the furthest from the traditional forwards-backwards lever and create some sort of alien art piece. Ford went with a fairly familiar rotary knob in a sensible size with good haptic quality. Unfortunately, you don't get shift paddles, although they did include a central L button on said knob. However, after a joyous summer spent with my Gen Z niece, I dared not press any switch containing that dreaded letter. To touch on the driving aspect of the new territory, I have little to report which would deviate from the current trend of SETI SUVs. The robotized multi-clutch gearbox is semi-obedient and needs a degree of patience, or preempting, from standstill or during quick momentum change requests. It's worth noting that, much like other Chinese-born turbo-petrol vehicles, this one already redlines at an exceptionally low 5,000 RPM. During multiple 0 to 100 km/h tests, our best was 9.28 seconds by the way, the car would short shift first gear but often allow 5,200 or 5,300 RPM in subsequent shifts, which is where its quoted power peak lies. With European turbo petrol engines easily reaching 6,000 RPM or thereabouts, my current theory as to why Chinese engine builders are so conservative is to reduce engine stress, thereby extending its life and hopefully being able to honor the car's entire warranty period. In this case, it's either 4 years or 120,000 kilometers. Steering feel is also on par with modern SUV offerings, perhaps a bit too light but fairly direct, making it easy to commute and park this 4.63 meter long vehicle. Other crucial measurements include an 11.4 meter turning radius, up to 190 millimeters of ground clearance, and cargo capacity ranging from 448, with the rear seats up, to 1,422 liters with all furniture folded flat. Ford alleges an average fuel use of just 7 liters per 100 kilometers from the 60-liter tank, but as with most other vehicles we test, our real-world average was hovering a few notches above that. A Territory may be able to hit 7-ish on a steady motorway cruise, but not if you subject it to urban hills or extra weight. However, in closing, we feel that the Asian-born Ford Territory strikes a safe and fairly pleasant balance between modern style, contemporary luxury and safety, as well as family-friendly features and acceptable road manners. And with its price tag of $725K, it's even fairly competitive in our crowded SUV market. Thanks so much for watching.
Road trip or something like that. Tell us a little bit, Pedro. Where does We Are the Light come from? What inspired this song?
Where's the volume? Where's the volume?
The main inspiration for this song. I got involved with